Hey tankers, and welcome back to World of Tanks with PR154. And we're here on Ghost Town, and we're following Izroth of the Saints clan in the Tier 9 Swedish heavy tank Emil 2. The Ranked Battles 2021-2022 season has really demonstrated how powerful Cranvan can be. So you do have a lot of folks out there that are really motivated to finish this line. We did have an on-track event for the Cranvan not that long ago, so people who'd maybe not touched it before had a bit of opportunity to make a few more gains there. So you're seeing a lot more Emil 1s and particularly Emil 2s running around the battlefields these days as a lot of different people try to round the tank out. There are a lot of really redeeming features to it. So you've got the 3-shot autoloader, 120mm main armament. You're landing 440 damage per shot, with 3 in very quick succession is 1,320 hit points of damage that you can land. You've got up to 12 degrees of gun depression, and really only these two cupolas that are weak spots of note when you're playing from hull down, and they're not exceptionally large targets either. And those of you who've played a bit of rank this season against the Cranvans and similar sort of cupola configurations will certainly know all about that and just how difficult they can be to hit. You have 215mm plate that makes up the turret facing, but when it's rather critically angled at 12 degrees of gun depression, you require over 450mm of penetration to actually penetrate that turret face. So played from hull down becomes an incredibly powerful asset. What we're seeing, however, is a bit of an unconventional play here from Izroth. Normally if I'm doing a southern deployment, one of my big lamentations is tank destroyers that might be setting up in this position and firing back into this corner here. In this case, there's been the enemy 110 has decided to try to pull a flanking maneuver and come through the 8-0 lines. Bit of an unusual choice, but I'll leave that with him. This sort of team setup is itself a little bit unusual. Neither side has a light tank, and so I guess in the absence of light tanks, a team is probably a lot less motivated to advance through or cover that 8-0 line, because that's very much the playground of light tanks. Rightly or wrongly, though, they have sent their heavy tanks up through here, and they are being punished rather brutally for it. Granted, there's really only Izroth's gun that is properly covering that sector, but he's doing so with such fantastic efficiency here. He's racked up over 2,600 hit points worth of damage. Now, we notice a decision here to rely on the heat shells, and that's probably sensible under the circumstances. He's got, I would suggest, about 350 meters of view range out to this line as well, and the standard AP, the effectiveness of that shell is likely to deteriorate considerably between here and those targets downrange. And have a look at what he's got. He's got a Tornbarn, he's got an E75. These aren't lightly armoured vehicles. So running with the heat shell, it means Izroth is firing a shell that's going to maintain its full penetration all the way to the end. So we can see some ticks that are starting to develop here just below the hit bar, which is indicative of personal mission progress. He's got HT-11, not a scratch. So his primary conditions here are to damage 3,000 hit points to enemy vehicles, which has just satisfied that condition with the last very meaty hit on the Tornbarn. Izroth also has to survive, but then there's the honours condition that Izroth needs to destroy 4 enemy vehicles. So that's a fighter medal that Izroth is requiring. Now there's still plenty of opportunity for that. A lot of enemy vehicles still in the game, although Izroth's team does have 3 more tanks in the game than the red team at this point in time. So the opportunities to get those kills are starting to slip away. The ability to get those kills when you're sniping from the back might also be a little bit questionable. However, if the enemy does manage to break through and it gets sort of bruised by your teammates along the way and might end up with a fairly low hit point count per vehicle, well then that's potentially an opportunity here for Izroth to do a bit of a late game cleanup here with the Emil 2. So we've got a brave charge by the AE phase 1, but Izroth is able to land the hit, possibly caused a bit of tracking damage along the way, but with the second shell in the magazine has actually managed to knock it out for their first kill of the game. We can see at least one of Izroth's teammates has indicated that E0 might be a problem. Okay, so it's the Caliban. They've indicated that there is a tank destroyer in that area. So Izroth will need to be mindful of that. However, they do still have targets downrange that they can penetrate with the very nice 300 millimeters of heat pen that you get on the 120 millimeter main armament here. So each of these shots are landing for an average of about 540 hit points. So that's a total clip potential of 1,320 hit points. It's just the Caliban that's left in the city at the moment, which once it expends all its shells, it tends not to last in the fight much longer. It does have an Object 263 in front of it, so it's very likely to be a much more enduring vehicle than the Caliban in a 1-to-1 fight. You can see Izroth has pulled off this ridge, is just moving around, whether that's to go dark or to reposition to engage another enemy. We know there's a tank destroyer of some description that's on the 9-0 line, as indicated by their teammate. Have to assume that those reports are reliable. The Object 263 makes its move first. We still have the heat shells loaded, just trying to punch through the rather awesome frontal armor of this vehicle. In its engagement of Izroth, however, it has exposed its flank to the Tortoise and the UDES-03 over here, so fortunately they're able to exploit the relatively weak, comparatively weak side armor of Object 263 and knock it out. There is still at least one tank destroyer that's been unaccounted for, but we have found it now. It was a charioteer that's been sort of creeping up the 0 line. Appears to have had a reasonable effect on Izroth's team, but Izroth has ended up having the rather terminal effect on the charioteer and has now picked up their third kill of the game. So we're looking for a fourth now in order to complete this, in order to complete the honours condition. It remains incumbent upon Izroth to still survive the battle. And it's still a neck and neck contest, if anything, with a slight advantage to the enemy team. Although we appear to have a bit of an equalisation of the hit points as Izroth slams the shells into the enemy Caliban. There's not a hell of a lot of Caliban left there. Now, if you do end up getting a Caliban double shotting at you, that is a really good indicator that you should probably try to run it down and knock it out of the game before it starts getting shells in the tube. It'll have its first shell ready to go again in about 30 to 35 seconds, depending on how good the crew is. So that gives you a bit of time to exploit and possibly knock it out. If you let go a full minute unmolested, it'll end up with 2 shells in the tube again and can cause a lot of problems for you. So Izroth looking for their 4th kill of the game. This Tornvarn with only 152 hit points left is looking rather juicy. We still have the heat shells loaded, so a higher degree of penetration confidence here. Whether Izroth is aware of their impending mission completion or not, I'm not quite sure. They're still trying to chase the damage there, though. They have loosed a shot at the Emil too, despite the opportunities with the Tornbarn. It looks like the HT-11.3 has actually been able to knock the Tornbarn out. So that's a slight opportunity lost there, but there's still 3 enemy vehicles left in the game that could hopefully be this 4th kill for Izroth. At the moment, the team has a Progetto 46 that is running a deep flank. Unfortunately, in doing so, it's if it runs into any adversaries at close range, the Tortoise, the HT-11.3, Izroth, they might not necessarily be able to help it. It's a risky play, but could be quite rewarding. We've got Izroth directing the Tortoise to maybe fall back. The Tortoise is potentially quite pennable against by the Shah Future 4. It does potentially have a magazine firing heat shells that have 330 millimeters of penetration, so that can cut through the front face of a Tortoise, no problem at all. Trying to get this 4th kill on JB the OG is someone a little bit familiar to me over at Fitty. But they appear to be reasonably well defended by the Emil 2 there. The Progetto 46 sees the opportunity. It's probably got a full magazine at the moment, and it's just going to start dumping it into that Emil 2. It doesn't appear to have been able to kill it, though. Izroth has the full magazine loaded and is starting to bear down on the Shah Future 4, but we see the T-44 first, and there is its 4th kill, and a very nasty ram kill on the Shah Future 4 there for their 5th kill of the game. Now they've now exceeded their mission condition with 5 kills. Now it's just the Emil 2, which our friendly Progetto 46 has actually been able to get away from. It has left that Emil 2 in a fairly sick hit point position. Izroth is moving in. Can they get the 6th kill for the Top Gun medal? Let's see how we go. It certainly is one-shottable for Izroth. First shot misses. Second shot, a little bit more care in the aim. Not quite. And let's see, 3rd shot in the mag, and there it goes for a Top Gun medal for Izroth. And that's the end of the game. Let's go and have a quick look at those results. So for their efforts, that is a very well-deserved Ace Mastery badge for Izroth of the Saints clan. We've also rather confidently now picked up that mission HT-11, having met all the conditions. We've caused at least 3,000 hit points of damage to enemy vehicles. We've met the honours condition of destroying at least 4 enemy vehicles. In fact, we've gone above and beyond that. Izroth has taken 6 kills, earning themselves the Top Gun medal. Also gone well above and beyond the damage count with over 7,200 hit points of damage inflicted on the enemy team, thus earning them the high caliber medal, which you get for accounting for at least 20% of the total hit point pool of the enemy team. They've also picked up the steel wall medal for receiving more hits than any other player on the team with, oh goodness, what have we got? 9 hits received, blocking nearly 3,500 hit points of damage. There's also a reasonable amount of spotting or assist damage done there as well. One of the other primary conditions was also to survive the battle as well, which Izroth has been able to do in one piece. So that's HT-11 for the T-55A done and dusted. We've also picked up a few of these badges of merit here. The Bruiser Medal for damaging enemy vehicle modules or crew members at least 5 times in the course of the battle. We've got the Duelist Medal for destroying at least 2 enemy vehicles that have caused damage to them in turn. We've got the Fire for Effect Medal, which generally goes hand in hand with the High Caliber Medal. And the Shellproof Medal for having total damage blocked exceeding the hit points of the vehicle. Having a look at the team scores, that is a decent margin in front of the next friendly tank there, with the Progetto M46 sort of still only managing about 2/3 of the take that Izroth was able to manage in this particular battle. Special mention on the enemy team to JB the OG of the Fiddy clan, with over 5,600 hit points of damage inflicted in the Shah Future 4 and taking 3 kills, but unfortunately did not have the carry pants on this particular game. Having a look at the detailed report, this was a bit of a deficit here for Izroth, with about 24,000 credits in the red. And this is considering that there's a bit of a payout that goes with knocking over these missions with honours completions or whatever. So there's 60,000 additional credits in the equation here. So in the absence of that mission completion, you're looking at a deficit of about 84,000 credits. Now that's down to a couple of things. We've got some premium consumables. We know they were running food. I'd have to double check on the other consumables, but I'd suggest there was either a directive or a repair kit or large first aid kit involved somewhere along the line. That had been quite costly. They'd made the decision fairly early in the game to start firing a lot of the heat shells, and I guess that's to get that confidence of penetration with 300 millimeters of penetration that's independent of the engagement distance. We have to remember that a lot of these shots were taken from quite a long range, and this is also reflected in the damage tallies with over 7,200 hit points of damage inflicted, but over 4,400 of that, we're talking around 2/3 of it, was actually done from a distance of 300 meters. That's quite possibly a result that would not have been able to be achieved with the standard APCR, just simply because of that deterioration of penetration over distance. But at the end of the day, if you are knocking over these personal campaign missions, you're not really that concerned about the credit position, because you can worry about that afterwards. Worry about that when the mission's done. If you're on track to finish the mission, then you're probably a lot less concerned about what it costs you. So very well done there to Izroth of the Saints clan in the Emil 2. And if you've got a replay that you're happy with and you'd like to share with the community, then please reach out over Discord or any of the links below, and we'll do our best to sort you out. Also check out the About section on the YouTube channel for some of the community guidelines and submission criteria that I look for there. Take care.